All right, so we've got our heads torqued down, went back, double checked everything. We're ready to go. We're moving forward, not wasting any time. We're gonna go ahead and get these comp cams, BSR Shaft Rockers installed. We also have some ARP hardware that's gonna help hold those in place. So stay tuned. Let's take a look at these shaft rockers. As soon as we get those in, by the way, we're gonna take the factory valve covers and set the factory valve covers over and make sure that we don't have any clearance issues. Motion Raceworks makes a set of valve covers that we really want to put on here that already have the AN fittings on there to go from the valve covers into the catch can that we're going to install. So we want to take that factory valve cover. They assure me that with if the BSR rocker, shaft rockers will clear the factory valve covers, then they'll work with the Motion Raceworks valve covers. So we're gonna find out.
The new engine rods are super and smooth.
What's that?
See a bunch of bolts in here. Is this for the rockers?
Pretty sure that these are it.
There's a bunch of them down there. What were those for?
Oh, they were. That's right.
These short hoss for the push rods. That is like all mine aren't even touching. We should at least have some touching, right? Or when we tighten this down, we're going to be opening valves.
Yes. When we ordered the shaft style rockers, I wasn't aware that it was going to come with some comp cams bolts for the install. I'm sure that with the reputation that comp has, I'm sure they're good bolts. I've always felt really good about ARP hardware, and I had already ordered the rocker studs instead of bolts. We had already ordered the rocker studs, are really not returnable. So we have it. I feel a little bit better installing the rocker studs versus using the bolts, especially with everything we're gonna throw at this engine. So right now we're threading these rocker studs in. We'll get these nuts on, get everything torqued down, and we'll start doing some checking. We're going to check and make sure that we have valve cover clearance on this, and then we'll go back and we'll start checking all of our push rod length. We're going to start checking our push rod length. So we've got the Trick Flow push rod length checker. It goes from 6.8 to 7.8 inches. Stock push rods on this engine are 7.4, which would be roughly about or not roughly, it would be 12 turns out. So if I spun this around,
We're 50 thousandths on each turn, right?
yeah, it's 50 thousandths on each turn. So this dotted line, and this works the same with comps. It's probably made by the same people. So what we're looking for is this dotted line. Every time that we make a full turn and line that dotted line back up, that's 50 thousandths. So we're going to roll it out. So 12 turns would be factory push rod length.
We already know we're a little short.
Right, we know that we're a little bit short, so we're actually going to go out to 13 and dial it in from there. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to go out to 13. That's lined up. We're going to go ahead and set that in. We've already made sure that that the intake is at the intake valve is at its base.
Yeah, and how we did that is we stuck a push rod in our exhaust hole. We rotated the motor so we felt that exhaust valve start to open, and that means that we're at our base height. We're not sitting on the intake lobe at all.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and slide this in, make sure that it's seated down in the lifter. Okay. And then we're going to take our shaft.
This is a little bit more of a pain with shaft rockers, because on a stock setup you can just have a single rocker here. You don't have to keep taking the whole assembly off and on.
All right, we're going to make sure that that goes all the way down. What we're looking for, and And that's a lot of play, so
We gotta-
ultimately, we're gonna torque these down. We wanna be at 0 lash, torque down. Now, if you look at how much play there is, you know, torquing this down to 25 foot-pounds is certainly not gonna take up all that lash. So we already know we're still a little bit short. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come out, and we'll come out one turn, which will add another 50 thousandths to our length, and we'll see where we're at from there. So we're gonna grab our push rod length checker. We're gonna come out one turn. Okay, like that. Set it back in the hole. All right. Ooh,
We're not all the way down.
something's hanging up. All right, now we're all the way down. If this was torqued, you know, there's no preload on the spring, okay?
You've got no up and down movement.
There's no up and down movement, but you know, we can move a little bit side to side. So if we were torqued, I would say that that is perfect valve lash or perfect length. But we're not torqued. So let's go ahead and torque these down and see if we stay where we need to. As a double redundancy, we're going to torque, since we are working with a shaft rocker, we're going to torque both sides of this because these are all tied together. So we want to make sure that we're not wedging anything by getting it cocked to one side or the other. All right, now, as you can see, there's zero play.
It's too tight.
It's too tight. So instead of going all the way through and torquing this to 25 foot-pounds, we already know that with the bolts torqued down, they're going to be too long in push rod. Need to run that stud back in. And one more time, if you don't mind, Sir Jacob. So that's right at 0 lash, so that's going to be our push rod length. Now we just got to calculate what that actually is.
All right, I can go through that with you folks. So, how many turns did we do? 13?
13 and about 5/8.
13 and 5/8. So 13.625, that's 13 and 5/8 turns. We know it's 50 thousandths for each turn, so we'll multiply that times 0.050. That gives us 0.681. So then we need to add that to our baseline, which is what on that push rod? 680 or 6.8 inches, right? The shortest length that push rod made.
6.8, yes, correct.
Plus 6.8 equals 7.481, but we're not done yet. If you look on our lifter box, we have to add in our preload of 35 thousandths plus or minus 10 thousandths. So there is a margin of error there. So we'll add plus 0.035. We need a push rod that is 7.516 inches long.
So now we're going to go to Cam Motion's website, or we could probably go to either way. We can either go to Cam Motion or we can go to Summit. And we're going to get us a set of push rods as close to that number as we can. So basically 7.5.
7.516.
Yeah. So.
We ordered a set of push rods that measure 7.525 inches. That was the closest to our 7.516. This is what we came up, yes, what we measured after we had it in our preload. I checked a couple other holes, and we were very, very close. I think one of them had just the tiniest perceptible amount of lash. You barely feel it, so I think we'll be good at the 7.525.
And factoring in, you know, so the 7.525 factoring in the available
Yes.
margin of error with the preload.
Yeah,
we should
plus
be
or minus 10 thousandths.
plus or minus 10, we're within that plus or minus 10 thousandths. So we're gonna roll with that. Now, we're gonna take these push rods, which are admittedly not the right ones and they're a little long. We're just checking
Valve
the
cover clearance.
valve cover clearance with these shaft rockers just to make sure that we can put the Motion Raceworks valve covers in there, because if we can, that's what I would prefer to do. Makes the oil fill a little bit easier